Hello, this is Isaac Darden. Title of my research paper is The Psychology of Human-Animal Interaction, the Importance of Wildlife Conservation. In my introduction, the first thing I want to cover is the importance of human-animal interaction as it relates to mental health. So, companionship has played a major role in the human-animal interaction. In one study, it was found that human-animal interactions and the relationships that develop between them have been regarded as mutually beneficial and can be comparable to psychological and physiological observations between a parent and child and dog owners and their pets. How this plays a role into the importance of wildlife. A fear of wildlife is common amongst those who live in urbanized communities. There are many people out there that are unaware of wildlife and animals and just how ecosystems work. It is important that the love of domesticated animals translates to how we appreciate and take care of their wild counterparts, which I think is an interesting dynamic that we love our domesticated cats, dogs, exotic pets, but when it comes to the way we live in our communities, the way we build our communities, we tend to kind of forget and just dismiss the whole aspect of the natural environment, primarily because we're putting ourselves first without considering how to maintain wildlife along with our way of living, which ultimately can create an unbalance for the environment as a whole. Human animal interaction during the Stone Age. Plight of animals during the Pleistocene era. It is important to know that humans have a long-standing relationship with animals, and though it may not be the kicking it with your pet bunny on the couch watching your favorite Netflix show, even during times like the Stone Age, where animals, especially dogs, played a vital role in means for survival, provided support and hunting efforts. But even with the limited number of resources used to hunt, did humans put a dent in the population of animals that could be of concern to the environment? One source states the late Pleistocene saw the extinction of a number of megafaunas such as mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, cave bears, and mastodons, perhaps from a combination of climate change and overhunting. Just like today, where we deal with endangered species from the unnecessary killing of animals for so many different reasons, you see it goes all the way back, tracks all the way back to times of subsistence hunting, which is, the hunting for means of survival. Even then, were we putting a pretty good dent in the population of certain animals from overhunting just to eat. Cool little picture of what that might have looked like. All right, so hunting in the New World. Early settlers into the New World used horses in their escapades and cultivation of the new lands. Europeans that also traveled to other continents such as Africa and Asia introduced the idea of killing animals for profit, an example, killing elephants for their ivory tusks. In America, as European settlers pushed to expand their dominance over the land, 10 to 15 million American bison were killed in just about a decade at the height of the killings to discourage Native Americans from using that land. This is a pretty crazy step, it feels like a step backwards, but a step forward in the way that we, killed animals as a tactic to kind of manipulate a certain group of people. So Cecile the lion, as just another example of kind of, how hunting transformed itself through time. In 2015, American dentist Walter Palmer paid $50,000 to kill a lion in Zimbabwe. On his trip, he shot and killed a lion named Cecile, who lived in Hwange National Park and was part of a study on genetics being conducted at the park. Because of Cecile's protected status and the fact that he was popular among tourists, his killing prompted international outrage, primarily from European and English-speaking countries. $50,000 to kill an animal, basically for bragging rights and sportsmanship, right? How different that is from killing an animal like that to survive, right? There's a wide difference, and the reasons for why you would kill that animal in both of these instances are dramatically different, and just has to make you think, just kind of how senseless it's became, and is it worth it to detriment the environment, pay that much amount of money just to kill a lion? And in this case, where the lion was being used for something purposeful for the environment and for this, the well-being of this species. Unfortunate. Process of elimination. In 1931, the Animal Damage and Control Act was created in order to protect domestic animal and farming operations. In it states, the Secretary is authorized to conduct investigations, experiments, and tests to determine the best methods of eradication, suppression, or bringing under control mountain lions, wolves, coyotes, bobcats, prairie dogs, gophers, ground squirrels, jackrabbits, brown tree snakes, and other animals injurious to agriculture, horticulture, forestry, animal husbandry, wild game animals, fur-bearing animals, and birds. Another purpose of these investigations is to protect stock and other domestic animals through the suppression of rabies and tularemia. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. And predatory or other wild animals. So yeah, the words that stick out here is eradication, suppression, bringing under control, right? I think eradication and suppression, that those can seem pretty daunting when you think about eliminating a lot of these animals. At one point, I guess wolves and I know prairie dogs were pretty much wiped out, right? And in that case, you have the rise of animals who eat vegetation. Now you have an attack. Now you have an issue with the lack of vegetation, which we greatly depend on for oxygen. For air quality at the end of the day, for us to live and to breathe on, just living on a basic level. So you see what in this statement, the approach can kind of be concerning, just for the environment, for all living things. Here's a picture of a black-footed ferret, which is an animal that preys on prairie dogs in the Great Plains. But because of the eradication of prairie dogs back in, I think it was the 1700s, 1800s, you then had the extinction or near extinction of the black-footed ferret in the Great Plains, right? So you can see just how detrimental it is when you eradicate, suppress a certain species, how it has just natural effects, right? There's no target on black-footed ferrets, but ultimately, without their main food source in the prairie dog, you now detriment the population of black-footed ferrets. I don't know the original population number of black-footed ferrets, but I do know that there's only 300 in the wild now, and that's because we've reintroduced them back into the wild in previous years. But before that, I think there was only no more than 10. So it's pretty concerning. So in conclusion, it is thought that conservationists care more about animals than they do about humans, when in fact conservationists are knowledgeable in the functionality of biology and understand that without these animals existing sturdily in their natural habitats, there may come a time where human life dwindles due to a lack of quality air and water, which we need in order to survive on a basic level. If the human species can learn to coexist with all predators and prey species and adopt an approach that safely maintains wildlife populations while preserving the human way of life, then the future is optimistic for a thriving world. And that's really mainly my thoughts. We have to do better in figuring out a way to balance human life and natural life, and keep these, these ecosystems that, are thriving, keep them thriving while also learning how to coexist with those thriving ecosystems. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.